everybody, not I can't say everybody, but a lot of people have dealt with unemployment, the getting, the not getting. Uh, so, ma'am, let's start with the misgivings. Well, I'll start with the misgivings.
Well, tell me where you have. We're always good when you tell me your assumptions and your confusions,
Okay,
and then I'll try and
that the
retell
company
it.
that you work for can get mad at you and they can squash you getting unemployment. That's
No,
one. Okay.
no
No,
company has total control over that.
but that's not what it seems like in the workforce. Because because we've been told that right there. The other one is companies will try and get you to quit first.
Yeah, that also doesn't work.
It doesn't?
No, you quitting isn't automatically mean you don't get unemployment.
Really?
Yeah.
See, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news here. If I quit,
If you quit.
I can still get unemployment. Possibly.
Yes. So, all right. So
Okay.
let's first
There's a
remember
big-
what unemployment is designed for. Unemployment is designed to partially replace your lost income for a period of time when you are out of work through
No fault of your own.
no fault of your own.
But I quit. I had enough. I'm not taking it anymore.
Right. So, what did you explain to the unemployment office when you filed for unemployment? Did you tell them you tried not to quit, but conditions were so bad they left you no choice? If you can
Ooh.
prove that, that's considered what's called constructive discharge, which turns your quit really into I had no choice. They made conditions so bad for me, it in essence was an involuntary termination.
How do I prove that? Now we go back to the case of documentation.
Mhm.
So I've gone into them and said, whatever is going on here, I can't take it. It's not correct. We need to change some things.
Right.
And they don't change the things.
Right.
At what point do I say, I've had enough, I'm quitting, and then I go down to the unemployment office, and you can imagine what they look like when they get the letter that says, hey, Bob quit, and now he wants to file for unemployment.
Yes. Now let's just hope that form. So usually what happens is when you file for unemployment, your past employer gets a notice to respond to. Bob Smith has filed for unemployment. Please confirm his dates of employment and your recollection of why he's no longer employed. And then the unemployment claim, and I'm just talking generally, it's not like I've ever been in an unemployment claim.
But you understand, you're the expert.
But I've been at appeals and I've heard hearings, and I understand how the process works. So the unemployment officer will hear your case. They'll collect information from your past employer. They'll compare notes, and they'll make an initial determination on whether or not you're eligible to collect. Now, if they award you benefits, you start to collect, but your past employer would have a chance to appeal or protest your claim.
Okay.
And now the burden of documentation to prove you are not eligible for those unemployment benefits falls back on your former employer. And in general, they all are not good at documentation, and you'll keep the money.
So I get the money. The employer gets the opportunity to
appeal or protest.
And you're thinking that a lot of times they're not good with the documentation.
A lot of times.
Because they didn't see the problem that I saw. When a person is in the middle of all of that, what type of documentation do they need for this to really have a basis to say I'm done?
Right. Well, in the case of if you voluntarily quit because conditions were so bad, it would be incumbent on the employer to prove otherwise, to in essence diminish your credibility and prove that they are the more reasonable person or reasonable party in the story that they tell.
What type in your history? What type of things make it so bad that a person wants to leave? Okay, safety is one.
Safety.
Sexual harassment is another one.
A really bad one that goes beyond unemployment.
Any of the isms.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many isms do we have these days? Okay, come on, that's okay. So we've had the one that's been around for a long time, racism. Is that the granddaddy of them all?
There's so many now.
See, ladies and
gentlemen,
gentlemen,
there's sexism, there's ageism.
That's what we tune in here for.
Whatever the protected categories are that you should not be discriminating against.
That's an ism.
That's an ism. Yeah.
Okay. So now I go to my employer and I tell them that I have a bad back. and I need one of those fancy chairs that costs about $500.
Reasonable accommodation. Yes.
You know, it's kind of like affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
Affordable means different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
What is reasonable, ma'am?
Very gray area.
Yes, that's murky. Those
So
waters are murky.
So this is what we talk about in terms of complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act in the
Okay.
workplace. Okay, so trained HR people, and we would hope trained leaders that know to ask for HR help. An employee says, "I'm experiencing something that requires me or has brought me to this point where I want to ask for some kind of reasonable accommodation." A good employee handbook and trained people would say this requires an interactive conversation between you, your manager, and whoever else they designate to determine if something's reasonable.
Okay.
You keep documentation of this interactive process to try and arrive at a reasonable accommodation. And if you can't accommodate and you say we can't do that, it poses an undue hardship on the business, and the employee ends up quitting and filing a claim for discrimination because of disability, it is a really, really high bar to prove undue hardship to the business. And a $500 chair would not be an undue hardship.
Okay. So that is not an undue hardship to the business. The employee comes in, the employee wins.
That's
employee
right.
wins out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would hope all parties would be reasonable. Somebody would get you the darn chair, and that's the end of the reasonable accommodation discussion. But some managers choose to make this more difficult.
Mike King here, Mindy Flanagan, talking HR and all the things that, you know, all the isms that would have me end up going to saying that I quit.
Right.
And next thing you know, company gets a letter, they have to respond, I get paid. That's the best of both worlds. With documentation, do they have to, is email the best way, and do they?
No.
Okay, ladies
It's
and gentlemen.
checking a box.
Okay, so when I just brought that question up, it landed like this. Yes. Okay.